Hi Ryan, thanks for coming in and talking to us today. You recently became a qualified teacher. What, how did you decide to go into teaching?
Um, the reason I went into teaching is because I had worked in a job where I was getting to work with a lot of children and getting to go in and out of schools quite a lot. And I always just thought when I was there that was a really nice environment. I liked working with a variety of different people, teachers, external agencies, management, head teachers and stuff. And I felt like in a school, just the environment was that everybody was there for the kids. And I thought that was something that I really wanted to be a part of. So I explored it a little bit further, done some volunteering, and then decided to go for it and do my PGTE. So it was a 1 year course to transfer into teaching.
So how long have you been qualified now?
So after the summer holidays, I will start my third year teaching. Yeah, so 2 years.
Still enjoying it.
Still enjoying it. Yeah, every day's still different, so it's still really good.
So do you feel that your training supported children who have additional needs and neurodiversity diagnosis?
I did, yeah. I think for my university course, we did some specific learning on it, but I think the way that my training supported it most was just by going into the schools, working with the teachers. During my course, I did 3 different placements at different stages in the school, and I would work with the teachers then for specific children. And I think working with specific children and seeing how those strategies worked for them was then enabled me to be able to think about how I can do that for children that I meet further down the line. So it's not necessarily this is the strategy and this is going to work for every child, but it's how do we come up with those strategies. So I think if you think about the training in that way and giving you a sort of a toolbox of things that you can use, and then you have to apply it to the children that you work with.
So what does a day in the life of a school teacher look like?
So for me, I tend to get in about an hour before the kids and just make sure the classroom's all set up. I try to make sure my classroom's as inclusive sorry, as inclusive as possible. So I have things like daily timetables set up. I have resources set up throughout the room, that help specific children. In my last year, I've had a sort of a soft start. So I would have maybe 4 or 5 children who have anxiety or something. They would come in maybe 15 minutes early. We would have toast, we would have some breakfast together. And then the rest of the class who felt more comfortable, they were able to join us at 9 o'clock. Usually in the morning, we would do some literacy-based tasks, after break, numeracy stuff, and then the afternoon was sort of set aside for more of our fun stuff. So we would do things like health and well-being, PE, art, drama, that sort of stuff. And then after school, it would just be sort of doing some catching up with the other teachers, talking about our days, and getting set up for the next day.
Do you feel your job that you did beforehand, before you went into teaching, do you think that set you up for, giving you a lot of experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my job, working with Enable was really about being person centered and taking the individual circumstances of the child or whoever you're working with into consideration. And I think with teaching, sometimes you have responsibility for up to 30 children at a time, so it can be really difficult to manage that. But I think having those skills and being able to have that experience of really getting to know someone first means that I can transfer that into my teaching. And
Okay.
I think that's probably one of the most important things is relationships.
And on that note, a lot of the work that we do is advocating for parents,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's stepping in and being almost like a mediator between school, and parents, because that relationship has collapsed for whatever reason. So Ryan, what do you feel would be the best way for a parent to maintain a good relationship with school? Because we work with a lot of parents who were advocating for them, and relationships are maybe already broken down before we get the referral for them. So what in your mind would be, maybe a bit of advice to a parent around trying to keep these relationships?
I think the best thing that, in my experience, is just trying to keep those lines of communication open at all times. If there is something that's worrying you, sort of go to the teacher or go to the school, as soon as you can. For me personally, a lot of my relationship buildings with parents happens at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, which is a busy time, but like for me, it's important to make sure I spend a bit of time with parents as well. But we also use Seesaw, which is a good way of sort of having an open line of communication between the teachers and parents all the time. So just making sure that on both ends, that I'm addressing any concerns that I have, and then the parent can feel like they can address concerns to me as well. I think is the main way of sort of maintaining and building that relationship.
Okay. We've well, obviously, there's going to be a lot of children starting for the first time,
Yeah,
so I'm sure, to alleviate some of the parents' anxiety as well, because obviously that, parents are anxious, the child picks up on that, so just building that really good relationship is good. We've also been working with a lot of children who have heightened anxiety, as a response to COVID. Some children were already having, high anxiety before that, but it's exacerbated things. So, also children are part-time tables, or some children, as you know, that are disengaging with school. What could parents offer? What kind of support could parents offer an anxious child?
For children who I think where that anxiety is already there, I think the main thing is just sort of working with the school or any external agencies to try and figure out what the cause of that anxiety is. I think the good thing about the role that we used to do is that you're coming to the home and you're sort of being in that child's safe space, where they feel a bit more comfortable and more open to talk. It's not, if school is the barrier, then sometimes starting the work from home is the best way of doing it. And then I think working with the school to address what that is. So if the concern is coming to the building and being in the environment, then it's how can we bring school to home for a little bit and sort of build up that trust again, or that confidence in their own learning, where they then feel like they can take that step. For myself, some of the things that I'm going to do is, for some of the children who are really anxious about coming back after the holidays, is I'm going to go in the week before and they can come into the classroom during that week, and I'm just going to set up times with them where they can come in and there's nobody else there. They can have a look around the room, they can see where their tray is, they can see where they're going to line up the pegs, all these really little things that seem really little to us but are really really build up and sort of add to that routine. So I think for me, I think if they know what the routine is going to be before they come in, then hopefully that will alleviate some of the anxiety. It also gives them that sort of chance to be one-on-one with me for a while, build that relationship, and understand that I'm just a person there who's there to support them as well.
And I guess that will help to support that relationship with parents as well. They get a chance to know the teacher, and build that relationship before they actually start school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes what we need to realise is that when children are anxious, it can often be because parents are anxious as well, which is absolutely understandable. So it's important to make sure we have that relationship with the parents as well, and we're giving them the sort of support that they need to.
So obviously, you've touched on that children are returning to school in the next, certainly here, in the next couple of weeks or so. So how can a parent support a child transition back into class then after the long break? Have you got any tips for them?
I think this is the tip that I'm using for myself, because I think even 6 weeks off for myself has been a big adjustment, and it's a change to your routine. So I think just as early as you can, just try and get back into the routine of, the sort of the working week, is whether it's making sure you're going to bed at the right time, or you're getting up in the morning, you're having breakfast, you're getting up, even if you've not got plans, getting up and getting dressed and maybe going for a walk, and just trying to get yourself into that routine of being busy during those hours. Get your body's clock sort of used to it again, so that when it does come around, it's not so exhausting, or it's not such a massive change to your routine that it can feel overwhelming, because the first couple of weeks are a lot. There's new routines, there's often classes change, so there's new children, there's new relationships. So I think having that routine set in place just eliminates sort of one of the barriers that you can have for someone who does have anxiety or any sort of anxious feelings towards coming back to school.
It's difficult for anybody going back after a break, isn't it? When you have 6 weeks, it's a long time.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got 3 children in the house that you're having to get ready, it can be quite chaotic in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I'll try to do is just have a couple of dry runs, and even, if you walk to school, maybe have a walk in the morning, just get used to doing those walks again. Or if you get the bus or something, do that route, and sort of see, so that on the first day, when you're already got the nerves about going to school, you're not nervous about this initial thing of getting out the door, because I think sometimes that's the...
And I think that's where there's a lot of stress anyway in the morning, and that's where children pick up, don't they?
Yeah.
It's an additional stress to their
Mhm.
day with everything else that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can sort of, one thing that you could do as well is sort of include your child in that too. So whether it's the night before or a week before school or something, maybe they could be setting up their clothes for the next day like they would do for their uniform, or read a story before bed like they would be doing when they get the reading book when they come. So all these things that they may be anxious about coming, they can sort of understand that actually I'm already doing it. I'm just going to be doing it in a different way.
What, from your, a general teacher's perspective, what advice can you give to parents of children who have additional needs and are concerned about their education? Quite a lot of the time, that it's daunting anyway for a parent, for a child to start school for the first time. But if they have additional needs as well, that's, an additional anxiety for a parent. What advice would you give that parent?
My biggest piece of advice would just be don't compare. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about children in the rest of the class. You probably, I think, as a parent and a teacher, sometimes what we do is we talk to other parents and we're like, oh, your child's doing this or your child's doing that. And you can kind of feel it. You start to worry. You think maybe, oh, is so and so behind? Should we be doing this? I think the biggest thing is just don't compare and look for the little successes. Look for the little successes in every day, because regardless of your additional support need, I think if you are being supported, then you are going to still be learning, and it could be at a different pace. And what that learning look like may be very different to what it looks like for other people, but there's always a success at the end of the day. There's always something that you can say, this is something that your child's done really well today. This is something that, they weren't able to do before that they can do now. And celebrate those successes. Make sure you're being very vocal with the child and saying, I've noticed that you've done this. I think that's amazing. And yeah, I think just being very individual in your approach to your child, and rest assured that the child's teacher will be feeling that way about your child as well. It's not necessarily that they're going to be thinking about, when they're planning, when they're doing work and stuff. If your child has an additional support need, they are going to be planning for that child directly and taking all these things into consideration. So it's easier said than done sometimes, but just having that comfort and knowing that someone is understanding.
A child to reach their potential,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like.
Absolutely.
We've spoken a lot about children's anxiety, parents' anxieties. What about your anxieties going back?
Yeah, I do have anxieties. I definitely get anxiety about going back. I mean, in any job that I've had, I've always had a little bit of anxiety about going back after a holiday, but I think can be nerve-wracking for a teacher going back after the summer, because you're going back to a job, but it's a different job because it's a different class. For me personally, most of my experience has been in primary 2 or primary 3. I'm going to be doing primary 7 next year, so there's going to be a lot of changes for me. But I think that's the main thing for everyone to remember, is that everybody in the school is coming back to something new, and we're all going to be learning new things. We've all got new things to get used to. So just sort of, sometimes there's just comfort in knowing that everybody's kind of going through the same thing a little bit, and being able to understand that.
So teachers do get anxious as well.
Get very anxious. Yeah, sure, it's not just me.
So one last thing I want to ask you is, what next for you? What, if I had a magic wand and I waved that magic wand, what would your future be like in education? Are you aiming high, or?
Well, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure yet. I think what I've done just now is I've had experience in primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, and I'm going to do primary 7. And I think my plans for the next couple of years is just to experience as much variety as I can within a school. I want to try and do different clubs. I want to get to know as much of the children as possible. I would really like to spend a long period of time in the same school, just so that I can get to know the families, get to know the community, and really think about how I can make a difference there. And then from then on, maybe, I don't know, possibly, I think the experience that I've got working with Enable before, and then coupling that with teaching, I think there is opportunity for me to branch into something where I'm working more directly with families and stuff, maybe in a management role, which I would absolutely love to do. But I think just getting my feet on solid ground first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming in and talking to us, Ryan. That was very insightful, and I hope that has alleviated some some anxieties, for children, parents and teachers
Yes,
alike.
thank you very much. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.